Welcome back, my lovelies. Welcome back to yet another sewing tutorial with German stitches. Okay, so this material, I got this fabric the last time I was in the market. I wanted to use it for my birthday, but I changed my mind last minute and I went with a velvet fabric. And I didn't film the velvet fabric because I sewed last minute. Yeah, I sewed last minute and I didn't get to film. But for this one, we're going to be filming, obviously. And so I got this fabric. This is very fluffy and it's stretching in one direction. Stretches in one direction, and this is quite very soft. This silk I'm going to be using for the top of the dress. This is for the yoke of the dress, and this is going to be the skirt part of the dress. Okay, and this I've decided I'm going to be using as a lining piece. Although this lining piece is quite hard, it's strong, it's not soft and friendly. So I don't know if I'm going to change it. So I'm just going to go ahead and use it and try to walk around, make it work. Okay, so let's keep this here and let's go into the drafting. I want to make this video as short as possible so that everything will be contained in one video, because my tutorials tend to be broken down where you have the drafting and the main video, and it takes too long, and maybe because I talk a lot. So I will try my best to minimize that in this one. Okay, so let's go straight into the drafting. Now, to draft this, you need your measurements, and because I'm the one wearing this, I'm going to be using my measurement to work it. So I need my half length. My half length is 16. I use 16 for my half length. I'm going to be adding half inch for the joining allowance, the one you're going to use to join the yoke to the skirt part. Okay, now I'm using this marker pen. Let me use a red so that it will be very obvious in the video. So I'm going to mark this 16 all the way. Okay, now when you are drafting is like I actually have the bustier I want to make. I'm sure I have a pattern paper on it again already, but I have to draft this because I don't want to have to start with using an already drafted pattern, so that you guys will see everything from start to finish. Like, you know, in Choma Stitches, I will show you everything. I will show you everything the way it is. I will show you. So now my bust is 35 inches, and and the bust is obviously the biggest part of the measurements we are working with. So 35 inches divided by 2 and divided by another 2, that's divided by 4, is going to be giving us roughly 8.8 inches. So I'm going to be using 10. Let me divide this into 10 so that we can have enough for both the waist cinching. So I'm using 10 inches. Okay, so bring it down. So I'm going to measure another 10 over here. Oh, we can work with 11 here because of the zip allowance for the back piece. Okay, now let's start by taking out the 1 inch zip allowance from the back. Let's take out the 1 inch zip allowance. Now I take out this 1 inch because when you are drafting, when you're doing your pattern drafting, most times you might forget that you've taken out the half 1 inch, and you forget you are including it, or you put it in already, and then you make mistakes. My shoulder is 15, which is 7.5, so we're going to mark 7.5 here. 7.5. So marking the 7.5, now we're going to determine the armhole. And the armhole is, if you've been following my tutorials, you know how I get the armhole. Is the bust measurement divided by 6. So 35 divided by 6 plus 1.5. So we're getting 7.3. So, and this 7.3, mind you, you're going to be marking this 7.3 after you've taken out the 1 inch slanting, shoulder slanting. You take out the 1 inch shoulder slanting first, then you cannot measure the 7.3 for the armhole. Okay, always take note of that. So I'm going to mark this like so. So in other words, we will be needing this same, what we'll have is last 8.3. So I'm going to bring this 8.3 here and just rule to meet this one here, so that the front piece and the back piece are going to be having the same armhole sitting. Okay, so for the front I'm going to measure the 7.5 as well, 7.5 all the way. Now we'll mark it down. Now the neckline I need for this, dress, I don't want it. I don't know if I want the neckline for this dress. You can play around with it however you want. So before we determine the exact neckline we want, because I have not determined the neckline I need for this dress, whether it's going to be an off shoulder or it's going to have a shoulder, but let's just cut everything out first, then we'll decide. Okay, now for the neckline of this, okay, and then for the front, okay, we take out our 1.5 inch slanting for the front piece. Okay, 1.5 inch slanting. So now to get the neckline, you have a 35 inches divided by 12 to give you the round neckline. I have 2.9 there, but I'm going to go ahead and use 3 inches. So 3 inches up here, 3 inches down for the front. Then use your armhole rule to connect the lines, and then you use your straight rule to join the slanting to the shoulder. It's taking shape gradually. Now for the back piece, I'm going to be taking the same 3 inches, but for the back I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Come down by 1 inch, and then now we're going to have to connect. I'm not a lefty, but I'm trying to get the camera to get this. Ooh, this is nice. I did well. Oh my god. Should I practice using my left more often? Alright, so here it is, slant 1 inch for the back. Okay, it's taking shape. Now for the back of my dress, my back is 2 inches shorter than the front. Yeah, this helps with your waist cinching and to avoid puffiness at the back and all of that. So I usually take out that 2 inches from the back. So the front is 16 inches and the back is going to be 14 inches. So I'm going to take out that 2 inches, and when we're done sewing, it will match. Everything will match. You guys know I don't give you half-baked food. I don't give you half-baked food. Go all the way in, people. All right, now that we have this, now here I'm going to be imputing the horizontal measurement, but before that, let us curve in our armhole. So for the front armhole, I like to go up by 3 inches, and then you come in by 0.7 inches, and you mark with your straight line to connect it, and then use the armhole line to bring it down, to curve it in, to give you a beautiful armhole. I think this marker is almost finished. Let's change the marker. Always have a backup. Don't let these things disappoint you halfway. So always have a backup. Oh wow, see, it's clearer now. We have something clearer now. Okay, now for the back, I like to divide the back by 2, so you can just hold it up here and fold your tape in half to get the 2. So you mark the middle, then I come in by half an inch. By half an inch, I use my straight rule to connect it to the shoulder slanting, and then use the armhole curve to curve it in. Now this is your armhole. It's looking nice. So let me use this clear pen to mark these things and to keep it. It's clearer with this. Wow. This is final. So always have a backup. Don't let these markers or any of these things disappoint you halfway. Okay, here we are. Let's also mark this 2 inches we are deducting from the back length. Perfecto. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and include the other measurements. The nipple for me, I use 8 inches, which is 4 if you divide it by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that 4 inches all the way to like top of the bust, because the top of my bust is 7 inches. From shoulder to the top of the bust, I work with 7 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this. Now I always mark this in case I'm going to go decide to turn this into an off-shoulder dress. If I'm going to turn this into an off-shoulder dress, you need the top of your bust to know how much cleavage you're going to show. Okay, all right. Now for this 4 inches I've taken here, that's what I'm going to be using as the dart for the back. So I'm going to be taking the same 4 inch here to get the dart of the dress. Now for this dart, you can take it all the way. You can work with, depending on the size of the person, you can go stop at the bust line of the person. So for me now, shoulder to my bust is 9 inches. So I'm going to be using my shoulder to my bust line. So I'm going to be marking this to that line. So the dart is going to be getting to from the shoulder to the bust line, which is 9 inches or 9.5. Depends. Then I'm going to be using 1.5 inch for the dart. So 1.5 inch divided into is going to give me 0.75 on both sides. So we are marking 0.75 on both sides. Now you can connect this to the dart line. Okay, we have that taken care of. Now let's work on the front. The front is where the major work is going to be. So for the front, we're going to be imputing all the major measurements of your client or yourself, whoever you're working with. Now, like I said, shoulder to the bust line is 9 or 9.5. It depends on how, if you can also move it up. If you want the dress to push up your boobs higher, you can go with 9.5. Now, if I am not wearing a bra, usually my shoulder to my nipple is 10 inches when I'm not wearing a bra. But for this dress, I will not be needing a bra, so I'm going to be working with 10 inches. Okay? You will not be needing a bra to wear this, unless you absolutely have to. But if you don't want to, it depends on your padding. You can pad it so well that you do not need a bra. Okay, now the shoulder to the under bust. Let me go ahead and check my measurements again. It could be 13.5 or, shoulder to the under bust is 13.5. Okay, so we have 13.5 inches. I'm working with inches, guys. Inches on the tape rule. I work with the inches. I don't know if other people work with centimeters, but I work with inches so that we don't get it mixed up. It's inches I work with. So this is my under bust. This is the bust line, and this is the top of the bust. Okay, we have that, and this is our shoulder line. Let's get this all together. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and impute these measurements and cinch the waist, because you want this bustier to actually be properly curved in, be able to get your bust well and to cinch your waist very well. Now what I do is I can use 2 inches exactly on the bust, and then use 1.5 inches for the waistline. Okay, so let's go ahead and impute that. Now to impute these 2 inches, what I do is I will come in here to this part. I'll come by 0.75, and then the 2.5 that is left here, I'll add it to the 1 inch on this side to get our 2 inches. Okay, and then I'll come down here. I'll mark our 0.75. So you can connect this with a straight line here, and connect this one this way, and then you bring your curved rule. This one is going to help you to bring this part home. Now to curve the bust area, what I do is from the bust line you come down by 1 inch, and then from the same bust line you go up by 1 inch. This is going to help you in curving this bust area, because you don't want it to be too curved. and be pointy. So now I'm going to turn my rule this way and connect these lines. Okay, and then for this side I can decide to work with like this, reverse it. Now when I curved in here like this part I reversed it and I do the same thing. Now you can use your hand to smoothen this line because we don't want any pointy lines. Okay, we don't want any pointy lines, so just smoothen it up like so. Now for the top, we only cinch the top with 1/2 inch on both sides, so you mark 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here. Now this is basically to be able to curve this front part. Now you bring your curve rule as well, minding this part. You can use the inner part for here. You can also use that inner part here, or you can change it just the way we did that in the down part. Now this, we are trying to eliminate that curvy pointiness at this area. So this is how we're going to get it. Okay, now that we've done this part, I'm going to introduce the horizontal measurements. Okay, now for under my bust, the measurement for under my bust is 27 inches. 27 inches divided by 4 is 6 inches. Sorry, 27 inches divided by 4 is 6.75 inches. We're going to be adding the 2 inches for this waist cinching, and it will give us 8.75. So 8.75, I'm going to go ahead and mark it right here. Beautiful. Now our bust, 35 divided by 4 is 8.75. You come to the bust area, you mark your 8.75. Okay, now to the waistline. The waistline is 28 inches. 28 inches divided by 4 will be 7, plus 1.5 that we have down here for the dots. You have 8.5. So you're going to come here and mark 8.5. Now after connecting this lines with your straight rule, it is going to look like it's not taking shape, but trust me. Trust me when I say this is going to be all curved up when you are done. So from here to the armhole, what I do to connect the armhole, I use this rule. I don't mark it straight, I just use it and connect it to the top of the dress, top of the armhole line. Okay, just not too straight. Alright, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for here. Now for this part, we've taken out 2 inches down here, so I'm just going to be introducing the the waist measurements, which is 7 inches plus 1.5, 8.5. So this 1.5 here, that's that measurement. So we're having our 8.5 here, and then come up here and you get your 8.75, which is the bust measurement. So you rule to connect. Now you can also use this to bring this on. It doesn't look absolutely straight. Okay, now let's take a look at our measurements. You understand what we have here? This is from the shoulder to the top of the bust line. This is where your bust starts. This is your bust line. The under bust line, which has the curvier part, which is the curvier part of the body, and I use more as allowance to cinch it in, to snatch it. And then this is the waistline. This is the half length. The half length is another part of another curvy part of your body, not exactly on the navel. Okay. Now this is the back piece. The back piece, not much work here. And remember, we have our zip allowance. Let me mark this zip allowance again so it will be bolder. The marker I used before was faint. It was almost finished. Okay. All right. Now for the back, another way we snatch this dress is by removing 1/2 inch from the zip allowance. Now this 1/2 inch you are removing, mind you, you are not going to use 1/2 inch to sew the zip. No, you will use the same 1 inch. So because you are taking out 1/2 inch, does not mean when you are not sewing it you will not use 1/2 inch to sew it. No, you are still going to use 1 inch to sew it. The 1/2 inch that we eliminated is the curviness. If you look at the back of our back, it's curved in, so you have to take note of that curviness when you are making your measurements. So this 1/2 inch helps to eliminate that and avoid your zip from bulging. Okay, yeah, so we share all the secrets with you in trauma stitches, both for our online and offline classes. Everything, you will learn everything. There is no hygiene. Okay, now back to the front piece. That's 2 inches you have taken out from here. We're going to be eliminating it from the side of the front pattern. So we come here and you mark that 2 inches here. Now, to connect these 2 inches all the way to the bust, for someone with bust 35, 36, 34, like 36 below, you can just mark directly to the bust point. Okay, directly on the bust point. Now, if it is someone whose bust is very busty, you can now work with, if it's someone that is from 36 and above, like 38, 40, and so from the bust area, you will come out by 1 inch. You mark your 1 inch and then you will connect it, so that when you are now cutting it out, we're going to eliminate this. We're not going to be using this, I'm using a black pen to illustrate for you. Now, if you now want to, when you are cutting this thing open, when you get here, you are going to open it up. You're going to open here up before you fold it. This way, it will give room for the fullness of the breast. I'm going to show us that when we are cutting, but after that, we are still going to eliminate it and go back to the actual measurements. This is for people who are busty. I'm doing this so that whoever is watching this, if you're busty or your client is busty, you will still be able to make a perfectly fitted dress for them that will be beautiful. Okay, so then let's go ahead and cut out the back piece. Now I have my paper scissors. Don't forget, I always use my paper scissors whenever I'm cutting, because if you use the same scissors you are using to cut fabric to cut paper, it will kill the scissors. It will just kill the scissors. So for that reason, you should have a scissors specially made for your paper. Now note, I am cutting out that half inch. That half inch that I marked in, I am cutting it out. Okay, this is ready. Now before I cut this back piece, this is what you can note. You can decide to cut in here and move it up this way, or you can work with your paper this thing. Now to do that, what I do is I cut in here first, cut out the dart. You cut out the dart piece first. So I'm going to eliminate the dart part first. Okay, now from here, for someone who is busty, like I mentioned, you're going to now open here, open up to the 1 inch you have here, the 1 inch opening, and then you fold in this slanted line. You fold it in to eliminate that 2 inches that we want to eliminate, like so. Now look at this. Now when you do this, you have an opening here. Now this opening is to allow the fullness of the busty person. Now to cover that fullness, you take a piece of paper that is left, you put it under, and you just mark it. Mark it to cover. Use this, connect the lines from both sides from this opening, and then you just take it out. Let's just show you this so that whoever is watching this will understand it. Now here is how you cut it out for someone who is busty. Now this place is to allow for the fullness of the breast. Now for someone who is not busty, for someone who was 35 like me, this is what we are working with. I'm going to open it right back, okay, and I will fold exactly from the bust line. So I'm going to fold it from the bust line, not from the 1 inch curved out, no, but for the actual, from the side to the bust line, the line I already made with the red marker, and I'm going to fold it in against the bust line mark, directly on it. Now this is how we're getting our own. For those of us that are not too busty, so I'm going to use this paper tape to hold it down. This is quite important so that it stays down. Okay, now that we've done that, you're going to take your curved rule and connect this line. If you see this, your mark is now away from where the line of the original line is, and I'm going to use this to connect this to the armhole line. Very necessary. You have to connect this. This is not the marker that is writing. Okay, we are going to use this to connect this. Now that this is connected, let's go ahead and cut it out. Now, in cutting this out now, let's now decide what kind of shoulder I want. What kind of shoulder do I want? Do I want this dress to come from the neckline just like that, or do I want to style it differently? Like how do I want our neckline to be? So it's time to decide what kind of neckline I want. Now I'm deciding now that I'm going to come down. I'm going to come down. Let's use the black marker to decide this one. Come down, instead of using the 3 inches here, I'm going to decide to come down by 5 inches, and then come out here with by 1 inch. So I'm going to be using my marker to remark my new neckline. Okay, the same thing you will do here. You come in here by 1 inch as well, and for this place you can decide to also come in if you want, or stay where you are. Look, I can just come down by 1 inch, and I'm deciding like this is how I want it to be. I feel like my left hand was more steady than this right hand. I can see what I'm seeing. Okay, now that we have this, let me just cut these pieces out that we don't need. This piece. Let me just cut it out. Okay, now if you join this together, you will see that this now matches, because we have eliminated the 2 inches we took out from here. We've taken out from the side of this place of the front. That way it matches. So if you are worried that this place is 16 inches, so here is 14, how will they join? It will join, it will match. Now this is it. When you eliminate it like that, you will get exactly what you are working with, okay, or what you are working for. So it matches. Okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, now back to the neckline. Now if you cut out this place, how do you want it? Do you want it to have a keyhole? If you want keyhole, now this is the place where you impute it. It depends on how you want the keyhole. If you want the keyhole to be so bold, you can come up like so. Come up here by 1/2 inch, then come down as well by 1/2 inch. That way you have a full 1 inch opening as the keyhole in the middle of the dress. Now that is an idea. But if not, you can decide, let me use the material the way it is to cover that place. Or let's see, should I just make it an off shoulder? Would I prefer an up shoulder? Now this is another idea. So now if you're going to be using this and making an off shoulder, it all depends on you. How do you want the neckline to be? For this dress now, I'm thinking an off shoulder will be perfect. So I'm going to decide where my off shoulder is going to be, which means I don't even need this neckline anymore. That's the thing. So I'm going to come here and come down by say 4 inches or 4.5 inches. I will mark it straight line. Mark it straight line 4 inches. Do the same thing here. Why we are making it the same 4 inches, because 4.5. So we'll mark 4.5. Yes, 4.5. This is because you want the back and the front to have the same ending, so that when you are putting a sleeve, an off shoulder sleeve, it's going to align. Okay, now for the back, I like to give it a little slant, but a curvy one. This is too curvy. Let's use this part. Come down by maybe 1 inch and mark it for the back. This is the back slanting. Now for the front, how do we want it? Now it's, if I come down like here and decide to come here this way, I'm going to have something like this. Now if I mark it like this, I can take this out. Okay. Now the beauty of all of this is, now if tomorrow I decide to use the same pattern and make something else, I will still keep this back yoke. Just indicate it. This is the back and this is the front yoke. Just indicate it. You can still use it tomorrow for something else. Because I'm going to keep it. I'm not throwing it away. That's the beauty of pattern drafting. I'm not throwing away this piece, so even though I'm not working with it today, when I'm going to use it next time, when I need to use it, I will still use it. Now this place that we have marked out, we have to extend this. I'm using black to indicate our further adjustments. I'm going to extend this up here. Always remember that. Extend it up here. Come here and extend this other one as well. Bring it up here. Now this is very important. So we can now cut it out. So brethren, we have our pieces. This is the back yoke and the front yoke that we don't need for today, but I'm going to keep it for future purposes. And this is what I need. So when I sew this dress, this is the pieces I need to make my dress. This is the back and the front. Okay, and also don't forget that the back, we eliminated the 1/2 inch for bulginess around here. So this is the pieces we need. Okay, now let's go ahead and draft the skirts pattern, the skirt part of the pattern. I'm bringing in a fresh pattern paper for the back, for the skirt piece. Now, how long do we want this skirt to be? And that's very important for me. How long do I want this gown to be? I don't want it to be too long. I'm using just 1 yard up for the top and 1 yard for the front. And whenever I'm making it, it has to be perfect and that's okay. So for that, I want it to be like 38 inches long. Now 38 inches minus 16 will give us 22. So we need 22 inches for this dress. And mind you, this material, the way the material is built, I will not be weaving it down. I will not be overlocking it down. I will be folding it as well. Which means whatever length you choose, that's exactly what you're going to be using. There's no adding of allowance for the weight, for the down part. So 22 inches it is. I'm marking 22 inches here. I'm only going to extend. Okay, that marker says don't use me, use the other ones. Okay, let's use this other one. Okay, I'm marking 22 here. Let's go ahead and mark 22 all the way. That marker says, please don't use me or leave me alone. That's why it fell off my hand. And I am obeying. Because I cannot start picking it up now. Alright, so now I'm going to mark 22 inches. Okay, now for my hip, I'm not taking measurement of my hip today. Let me take the measurement for my hip. Okay, my hip is at 42. and my waist to my hip measurement is 8 inches. Okay, now we're going to take down that horizontal measurement. But before that, since the hip is 42, we're going to divide this pattern paper into 2. That's giving us 4 division. That is 42 divided by 4 will be 10.5 inches. So say I need like 1.5 inch for the seam allowance, but the down part is very stretchy, so we're going to be using just 1 inch for the allowance. So we have 11.5. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 11.5 down. And for the back, as usual, we're going to be adding this zip allowance, which is 1 inch. So let's do this one and then mark the back piece. My God, this video is looking like it's going to be long again. People should recommend. Why do I explain too much? I can't just help it. I'll just keep talking and talking and talking. So now we're going to be using the 12.5 for this place for the back. That's the 1 inch for zip allowance. I just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Oh. Okay. It's a gift. People can talk and people that teach. So I'm a teacher, so I can't help it. I talk plenty. I talk plenty. So bear with me if this video is too long, unnecessarily long. Bear with me. Be cozy. And by the way, I am Igbo, guys. I am Igbo, and so if I speak Igbo in between, I understand. That is because I am Igbo, and my accent should tell you that as well. Alright, so now let's go to the waist to the hip line. We have established that the waist to the hip line is 8 inches. Some people theirs is 7, and some people can be as high as 9 or 10, depending on how tall you are or how curvy you are. Some people are tall, but their waist to their hip line is 7 inches. I've seen that before. So just make sure you take accurate measurements when you want to sew for someone or yourself. Take accurate measurements. It's very important, so that you don't work on assumption and then make a dress that won't fit. You want to be able to make a dress that fits perfectly. Now, if I want to pencil this dress, because I want this is not going to be like a pencil skirt, a pencil dress. It's not going to be like too tight on the leg. It's going to be free, but there will be no slit at the back for ease or anything. So, but if you say you want to work and make a pencil dress, you can decide. Now, the hip measurements for this our dress is 10.5. So the actual measurement is 10.5. 1 plus 1 inch will give us 11.5. So this is exact hip measurement, and this is the exact hip measurement we are including the zip for this one. Now for here, you can decide to come here and take in 2 inches or 3 inches, depending on how tight you want it to be. And when you take that 2 inches, you can come up here and decide to take 1. Just connect it. This is for if you want to make it you want to make it pencil. But this pencil, making it pencil now depends on you. How much of it are you willing to take in? See the ruler I'm using. See the way I am turning this ruler to fit the curviness of the person. Note that. So the same thing you do in the front, so that's what you do at the back. 2 inches here. Come here, take 1 inch in. Now when I say come here and take 1 inch, you can decide to take the same measurement you have from the waist to the hip line and bring it down here. But for this one, I came down by 7 inches. So you see, to decide where the other 1 inch will come from. Now from here, what I do is I connect this place with the curved part of the roll, because your hip area, that side is curved, so you don't have to use straight line to connect it. And then here, you connect here. This is the bottom part of the dress. Now, depending on how curved up you want, how penciled you want it to be, you can go in as much as 3 inches. And if it's a very, very stretchy fabric, you can come in as much as 3 or 3.9, 3.5. Depends on what you want. And when you are working on this, you have to understand the texture of the fabric you are working with, texture of fabric, and the preference of the person you are making it for. Alright? So now I'm going to come over here to the waistline. My waist measurement is 28 inches. 28 inches divided by 4 is 7 inches, and I'm adding 1 inch for I'm adding 1 inch for sewing allowance, that is 8 inches. But this fabric is very stretchy. We can try to eliminate it, but just to be comfortable, let's just include it. Now you can see that I'm not putting darts. This is a stretchy fabric and I do not need to dart it. Now for someone who wants to put that, let's just work on the dart and then I will eliminate it later. I just hope you guys don't get confused. If you want to work on the dart now what I use for this dart to match the front we use the 4 inches, that's the nipple to nipple measurement. So we are going to come here and introduce that 4 inches. This is how you make it match, so that the line for the down part will match the line for the up part. Now you can come in here and decide to use 3.5 inches for the dart for the front. You will mark it. Now the dart line for this place we used 1.5 inch, which is 0.75 on both sides. You will mark it, and then you use that 0.75 to bring it down like this. That way, when you are taking your darts, if you take out 0.75 here and then join this one here, the line for the darts for the skirt part and the front part, it will just align. It will just align. Here is the front piece. See, look at what I'm showing you. If you join it and you eliminate the C, it will just align. Can you see what I'm showing? It will just properly align. Let me just align it. See, the 4 inches here and this. You just take out this part, and this will align when you join it. Now that is how you mark it. Okay, that's for that. Now, knowing very well that for this back piece, I am including the sewing allowance because the material I am working with is very stretchy. It might be difficult to work around it that's why I'm including the sewing allowance on the pattern paper. But no, also remember that this front piece, the top of the yoke, the material I'm using for the yoke is not stretchy. It's not stretchy, and for that I am not including the allowance. I'm going to include the allowance when I am cutting the piece for the yoke. Please just note all these things and be very careful about it, so you don't confuse them and make mistakes. Okay? All right. So now, if you are working with a dress that has a dart, when you include this dart, now instead of saying your waist divided by 4, as since it's giving us 7 inches, you're now going to include the dart, which the 1.5, which will now give us 8.5 inch. So you see, you can now connect this to the hip line. But since we are not working with a material, we are working with the stretching material, and we're not using the dart, we're not going to be working with this we have done here. I'm just going to go ahead and connect this. Please note where I'm turning this hip curve to. Note it so that you do not go and use the wrong part. Yeah, you'll be wondering, this person is really curvy. Yes, I am. You will see it on my body when I wear it. I'm actually very curvy. Okay, so for the back, remember that the back we included 1 inch for zip. So you don't forget that when you are marking, when you are taking your measurements. So now from that, instead of having 7 inches, we now have 8 inches. 8 inches for the back, and then plus 1 inch will give us 9. Always note this. Okay, take note of the measurements and be present. If you are not present when you are marking it, you make mistakes. You will not even know when you have taken out the one you've taken out. When I say be present, it means be conscious and not be absent-minded. So if you are present when you are cutting, you should be present. It's very important that you are very aware, you are very there, so that when you are cutting, you don't make mistakes. Okay, so this is it. We have this for the skirt part. Now remember that 1/2 inch we took out for the zip for the top part. Yes, we are coming back here to take it out again. Now when you're taking it out, you can decide to come down by 3 inches to connect it to this side. Yes, we are taking that 1/2 inch because we need this to match completely. We do it. So this is the top side. If you can indicate it, if your pattern is confusing, indicate where the top and the bottom is. Indicate. It's very important that you indicate so that you don't make mistake. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and cut out this piece. These pieces. Okay, note please that I have added sewing allowance. So I added 1 inch sewing allowance because the material is a stretching one. Now For the top part, since we're already adding all the allowance, I'm going to be adding ½ inch joining allowance. That's the ½ inch that we use to join the skirt part to the yoke. We're going to be including it in this cutting. Now to do that, you can mark out your ½ inch. But if you know your ½ inch and your hand is steady, you can do it. But let's just be safe and just mark it out. Mark out the ½ inch. I know my ½ inch, that's why I did not use a ruler. So if you've been sewing for a while, at some point you even know what 1 inch looks like. Just looking at it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut out this piece. Alright guys, our pattern paper is almost ready. Now the next part we are going to be cutting is the sleeve. So how do we want the sleeve? And which of the materials are we using for the sleeve? You know what I'm asking? Because we have two materials here, obviously. We have this fluffy, beautiful one, and we have the normal one. So which one will you use for the sleeve? Now this is completely up to us, Abby. So that is what we now decide how we're cutting the sleeve. Now for you to cut the sleeve, so this is the front and the back. You can also indicate. Indicate back. Okay, all these pens, they are almost finished. Yeah, I don't even understand them. Okay. And front. Don't mix it. Okay. Now let's take these ones and put it aside and decide how our sleeve is going to be. Now for the sleeve, I'm not really a fan of long sleeves. No, I'm not. I like sleeves that are just, if the material will be enough for 3/4, that's cool. If not, you can work with whatever is left. The material is not much. The fabric we're working with is not much. So let's just mark for 15. If at the end of the day it's not up to 15, we'll improvise. We'll work with what's left. Because this is going to, the fabric that is leftover fabric is going to determine how long and how full our sleeve is going to be. But I'm going to just make a normal straight sleeve. And now for you to mark out exactly the width of the sleeve and how you want your sleeve to be, you have to note your off shoulder. Now if you are working with an off shoulder of, say, like my own now, that is a 39 inches. Now you are going to be careful to mark to know what you have used for the front, for the top. What is the allowance you have used out from the front? Now whatever you have used on the front, you are going to be times it by 2, because that is what you are using. So for the front we have say 6.5. For the back, we are going to mark this thing down. 6.5. I'm marking 6.5 because 1 inch here is for that and ½ inch is for joining the sleeve. Note that it helps to cinch the sleeve so it will be perfect. If you add the set allowance for joining the sleeve, it will bulge. So I'm using the same allowance for the sewing for the sleeve. Okay, this is very important. Note that it's a simple sewing hack. Now for the front too, from the front part, you are going to measure. I'm measuring here. So I'm getting 6 here. So for the front, I'm going to include ½ inch. So this is 6.5 times 2, now plus 12. So plus 12, we have 25. We are subtracting this 25 from 39. So what is left is 14 inches. So the sleeve we are working with is supposed to be 14 inches on the top arm line. Okay, so from here, the 14 inches is going to be divided by 2 into 2 sleeves, obviously, which is 7, 7. So for each sleeve divided by half will be 3.5. So we have 3.5 plus ½ inch for joining, which is 7. Now, another thing you note is for the front part, you will use this to mark the whole of the sleeve. Very important. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. Now you can do this for the front and the back because the both may not be the same thing. But for this one it matches. Okay, perfect. Now, what is your round arm measurement? Your round arm measurement for mine, I have 12 as the largest part which is 6 inches. If you divide it into 2, we're going to be adding 1 inch, which is 7. So we have here. Now for the down part, if I am using this fluffy fabric, I would like it to be full, so I can just take the same 7 all the way down. In other words, it looks like I'm deciding to use a fluffy fabric. So it's looking like I'm going to be using the fluffy fabric. So this, we check it down all the way, and this is going to be our sleeve. Now this is an off shoulder sleeve. This is not the way you cut a sleeve that starts from the shoulder. Okay, note that this is an off shoulder sleeve. It's not the same way you cut a sleeve that starts from the shoulder. So let me cut this out. And the sleeve, remember, it has been cut with allowance. It was cut with allowance to Nigerian people or African people, wherever you are working for. So it was cut with allowance. So when you are cutting, there is no need to add allowance, but you can add allowance on the top for joining. Because for this sleeve, for it to have a hold, when we are joining it, we are going to be using a bias to hold the sleeve, because the bias is not stretchy, to keep it in place. But since we are using a stretchy fabric to make it, we need the top to be not stretchy, to hold. Okay, it doesn't have to be elastic, too stretchy. Or if you don't want to use that, you can also use an elastic band to control it, but whichever one. I think using a bias will be better for me. Okay, that's for it. Now we have all the pieces we need for this dress. This is the back piece for the skirt. This is the front piece for the skirt. This is all the pieces we need for this beautiful dress. Now here are all the pieces we need. The back piece, the skirt, the front piece, and the sleeve. And mind you, we are not working with those 2 yoke on the top. Those 2 yoke will not be included because we are making it an off shoulder. Okay, so this is it. Now we are going to go ahead and transfer all of this into the fabric. And then before that, let me show us how we draft that, because we're going to be padding this dress. We're going to be padding this dress, and for that we are going to have to mark out where we need to cut out our wadding. So I'm going to cut out that wadding now. Now to cut out the allowance we need for the wadding, I'm going to place this piece right here on here, and I'm going to be marking it out, starting from the under bust. Note that we can now alter it afterwards. Let's mark it just exactly the way it is, then we can alter it. Okay, this is for this front piece, and this is the side front, this is the center front. So we mark the same thing for the center front. Okay, now let's indicate the middle. Let me just indicate the middle and all the other measurements that are supposed to be indicated. This is the top of the bust. This is the top of the bust. Okay, so this is the top of the bust, and this is the middle. This is the middle. Okay, we have this part. Now what I'm going to do is, now when you are marking the bust area for the front, now you are supposed to come in by 1.5 inch. Now come in by 1.5 inch from the side, but if you come in from 1.5 inch So you are going to mark it. Here's my code. All these rulers, they know how to disappear when you do it. Okay. So from here, come here and bring it down straight up. Remember, this is the side front, and this is the arrow that leads to the middle. Always indicate that. Now we do not need, this is the top of the bust, so this is where we are stopping this. Now for this part, we are going to extend it because we need it to stand properly. You come here, you measure. This is the top of the bust where this is stop, where it's supposed to stop. This is the top of the bust here. Now for us to make here and here match, measure this place. You have 1 inch here. Come here, take that 1 inch and connect this top of bust to this top of bust, to this new top of bust. So for the center front, we are using everything for the wadding, but for the side front, we are altering it to match the center front, so it will be more comfortable and better. Now this that we have done, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. Now we're going to be using this to cut out the wadding, that's the material we're using to pad the breast part. Now if you want this, want to be able to wear your own without a bra, now the trick I use is you have to put wadding on both the interfacing and the main fabric. So you put the wadding on your lining and on the main fabric. So this is the thing. When you return this back here, this is what you have. This is what you have. This is where the wadding is going to be. Okay. So let's note that. So these arrows are important. You can transfer it on your wadding when you mark it out. So this is the front piece and this is the wadding. So now next we are going to do is go ahead and transfer all of these patterns into the paper. From this paper to fabric. Okay. Now when you are cutting with a stretchy fabric, you have to keep the stretchy fabric, the stretchiness on the horizontal side. What do I mean? This is the stretchy part of the dress. Where is it? Now this is going to be the horizontal part. Okay? This is the fabric I'm working with. It's so beautiful. So this is the stretchy part. This part is not so stretchy. So you're going to be marking the stretchy part is going to be on the horizontal part. So we're folding it like so to get the same thing is going to happen when you are also transferring the thing for your sleeve. So we're cutting the down part first. Remember I said we're using this fluffy part for the skirt part. So let's see if it's going to be enough. So we need to extend it now. Okay. For us to get this thing exactly the way we want, we will pin. You have to pin it down. So, hence our box of pins. You have to pin it down now to steady it. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it down. Alright. Now we have it all properly pinned down, sorry. So I have to cut it out. Now this is the scissors I use for fabric, different from the paper scissors. So just cut out exactly what we have here. This fabric is difficult to cut through. I swear it's difficult to cut through. And it's going to leave a mess because of the fluffiness. So I have gone ahead to cut out the patterns on their fabrics. So this is the skirt parts, this is the top, that's the back piece over there, and that's the sleeve. So at the end of the day, I decided to use the fabric for the top for the sleeve. That way it's going to give me allowance to be able to play around with the sleeve or play around with the fabric as well, you know, because like if it's plain up there without the busyness, I can try to use a click to design it later on, you know, to do whatever I want to do. But if I have a busyness on it, it will restrict me. Alright, so now I've gone ahead to iron a stay behind the fabrics for the top. Let me show you. So this is it. What does this stay do? It gives it more volume and more texture, gives the dress more balance here. And also I've cut out the wadding. You can see it there, wadding, and I've ironed it to the piece for the front. Those are the front pieces. I've ironed the wadding. By the time you sew this together, you have a nice cap. Okay, now like I mentioned earlier, if you want to be able to wear this without a bra, just one wadding will not do it. You can use just one wadding and then use a bra cup to complement it, or you can put the wadding both on the front and on the back. So that's another method. So you can put wadding here too. This is the lining piece, because the material was left. I was left with few more piece of the fabric. I had to use it to cut out the lining piece for the top side. So I've not decided if I'm going to lining the downside of this or if I'm going to just leave it like that, because it's a very stretchy part. It's stretchy, so I'll be needing a fabric that's equally stretchy to maintain the consistency. I can't use a very thick material or the one that is not stretchy like the one I have here, so which is why I can't use this. It doesn't go. So if I don't find a fabric to be able to use for this, I will finish it off. Of course I'll finish off the dress, but I will not be putting a lining if I don't find a fabric that has the same consistency and that is close in color as well, you know, so that when you open the dress inside out, it should look as clean as the outside. That's a very good point. That's very important to me. So so let's just see. Let's move ahead. So we're going to go ahead to sewing. Please don't forget to have your matching zipper. This is zipper I'm going to be using. It doesn't look exactly the same, but this is the closest I could find, so I'm going to be using this. And then you need your matching thread as well. You need the matching thread for this. I'm going to go ahead and go to the sewing machine, and I'm going to join these pieces together. Join this together, and I'm going to put a dart on the back piece, and put a dart on the back pieces, and then I'll come back and we'll join them. Now I also use the same fabric to cut the sleeve. I was going to use this other one, but I changed my mind because I want to be able to play around with the dress when I'm done sewing it to beautify it. Okay, so I decided to use this. This is more plain, that way I can have more to play around with. So I'm going to also go ahead and for this particular sleeve, I'm going to hem the edges, so we'll be ready to join this. Okay, so let's go ahead and do those one, and then I'll come back and show you what next to do. I've joined the pieces together, and I've gone ahead to iron all the pieces together. Yeah, and this is how I got this place, how I ironed here. So when you're ironing, you make sure to open up the seams like this for the bust area and iron properly. Okay, after ironing, you open it up this way, turn to the right side. So when you want to iron the bust area, you open up the seams in this way. After making these little notches, you cut very closely to the seam so that it will relax after ironing. Now you can open it, turn it to the right side, go ahead and press it again. press it again. You're supposed to get a neat finishing when you are done with this. So you have to iron it very well. So I use a steam iron, okay? So you can steam it properly and open up the steam. So I give you a nice cup. Seeing this? You're going to continue this. Now after doing this, to keep this in place, what I like to do is open this up and cut pieces of the stay. The stay I used to double up this place. Use pieces of it. Now cut them out. Okay, so like this. I don't want to make it a long stripe. If you make it a long stripe, it's going to defeat the purpose of all these notches. So what I do, you open it up like this and just carefully lay it down and use it to keep this place you've opened. You use it to keep it open. Now I'm going to go ahead and do all of this carefully like this, one after the other, up until all the way down, and on this side as well, all the way down, so that when you are done, when you open up this place, it will give you a very neat and well laid bust area. So after cutting out those pieces, this is what I arrived. One after the other, I folded it down and I ironed it, opening the seam. So when you open it up, this is what you get: a neatly finished cup. Look how clean, how beautiful this looks. Look at how beautiful this looks. Okay, now this is the lining piece. The lining piece does not have any cup, does not have any wadding inside. This is the lining piece, and this is the sleeve. I've folded the edges, and I've ironed it. Don't play with your ironing. Ironing is very important. Makes your work look neat. Comes out really beautiful. And this is the back piece. I've taken out the dart. Look at the dart laying properly and very flat because I've ironed it. This is the back piece as well. The lining piece for the back. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do now is open this. This is the back. This is the back of the skirts. Now we are going to join it. I'm going to be joining it. Now this is the zip area for this. We're going to be folding this like so, joining here to here together, and here together. So I'm just going to pin this together, pin it, hold it together, hold it in place. So I'm going to go ahead and sew here too together, and then do the same thing for this one. For the front piece, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to join it. So now I'm going to open here up, fold it in like so, and hold it down. Pin with use your pin to fasten it so it doesn't move when you are sewing it. This material under is quite slippery. This fluffy material is quite slippery, and so you have to keep it in place. Keep it in place while you are pinning it, and when you're sewing, it has to be pinned down. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Run a stitch down, join the front and the back piece. And then we'll go ahead with the zip, with attaching the zip and then finishing it off. Alright, I've joined it. I've gone ahead to join this place together. Join the front pieces together. This is what we have. And here it says, I swear this fabric is making a lot of mess. My god, I can't wait to like see the finished work. And because of this plenty shading, I will have to overlock it. So overlocking is very necessary. I didn't know I would need it like it's so tight. I have to overlock this. So when I'm done sewing it, I am going to take it to overlocking machine and overlock it. Okay, so this is this part, and then we're going to also join here. Use this to conceal this. Okay, go ahead and place this place together, right side to right side together, and sew it. We're going to use this to conceal the roughness of this place. That is for the front. Now the back piece, we've also joined the back piece. This is the back piece, we've joined it. Okay, it's shedding. This fabric is shedding a lot. It's shedding too much. Okay, I'm gonna have to join the back piece and then hold it down together with the 1-inch zip allowance. You can see that. Okay, so I've held it together with one inch seam allowance, sorry. So I'm leaving the opening where the zip is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the zip to it. And after sewing the zip, I will also use the lining piece to lock it up, to cover the edges, to conceal the edges and give it a nice inseam. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do this ones. I'm going to attach the zip and conceal the top of the front part and the top of the back piece, and then come back and we'll try and join the sleeves. We're almost done because the rest we're going to be overlocking the inside because of this excess shedding, and I feel like the overlocking will also be needed for the down part. Now for this down part, instead of overlocking, maybe I will have to sew. I'm thinking whether I will sew it. If the machine cannot overlock it, then I will have to, because it's going to be stuck in the machine. I'm just thinking of how I'm going to finish off this. My goodness, this is shedding so much. Like, oh my god, I didn't anticipate this part when I was getting this fabric. I just love the fact that it looks so cute. But anyway, every good thing comes with a cost, you know. It has to be worth it. So let's go ahead and put the zip and voila la la. So we've concealed the top of the dress, we've joined it, the top, and top stitched very closely. So now I'm going to go ahead and iron it. When I'm ironing it, I'm going to use a hemming gum. I'm going to be using hemming gum. This is hemming gum. I'm going to be placing the hemming gum all around like so, all the way down. I'm going to place the hemming gum, iron it so that it lays flat, exactly like this, and it will come out neater. So this is what we're going to do next, ironing this and keeping it exactly like this. So this is it. This is the front piece, and this is the back piece that I've also gone ahead to sew the zip. I've sewn the zip and and I top stitched it as well with the lining piece. So just go ahead and when you are done sewing the zip, you sew the zip first before you put the lining piece, and then you just top stitch it and to cover your sewing. So we're going to overlock these edges to keep it neat. But for now, the next thing I'm going to do is the sleeve. Now, the sleeve part, following this part, I'm going to hold it down like so and pin. Okay, Sorry, seriously, how did this get in here? Okay, and pin it all the way to the end. Pin it like so, and pin this other one to this side as well. When I'm done with this pinning, I'm going to go ahead and sew it. Sew here, and then bring the front piece together, and also sew this place and here together like so. Also sew here. Then when I'm done sewing that, I'll come back and then we'll now join it, the whole piece together. We're almost done. This is like, we're done. So I've gone ahead to join the sleeves. I've joined the sleeve on both sides, and then I've joined the sides. Now if you look at the front now, it's now laying perfectly because I've concealed it. I used the hemming gum to hold it down like I showed you. And the zip part, like we're done. What is left to do now is to go take it to an overlocking machine and overlock all of here, overlock everything, and then maybe use the baby lock to also lock the edges so that it doesn't shred, or I can use a lighter and burn the edges of this part so that it does not shred. So guys, if this video was of any help to you, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, like and share this video if you would like. Please share this video with your friends. Let our page grow, and don't forget to subscribe if you have not subscribed. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for staying with me. And as usual, by next week another video will be dropping, and I can't wait for you guys to see what I'm planning to drop next week. Thank you so much. See you in my next video. Bye.